All right, let's dive in. NVIDIA just dropped what might be one of the most powerful earnings reports we've ever seen in tech. But the market's first reaction was kinda meh. So what's going on? That's the puzzle we're going to deconstruct right now.
So this is it, the big question. You've got record-breaking earnings, fantastic guidance for the future, everything a company could possibly want. And yet, the stock actually went down at first. That little contradiction tells you everything about the absolutely massive expectations that are now baked into this company.
First up, just look at this headline number. Revenue shot up an incredible 56% from last year, hitting almost $47 billion. For literally any other company on the planet, this would be cause for a massive celebration. But for NVIDIA, well, the story is a bit more complicated.
And here's that complicated part. Even with those huge numbers, the stock slipped. It's a brand new reality for the company at the heart of the AI boom. Just beating expectations isn't good enough anymore. The market expects them to be completely blown out of the water. Okay, so to really get what's happening here, we have to look under the hood. We have to start with the absolute core of NVIDIA, the engine that's driving this entire revolution, their data center business.
I mean, just look at this. If you want to understand NVIDIA today, you really only need to understand one thing. It's the data center. It's not just the biggest piece of the pie. At a jaw-dropping 88% of all revenue, it pretty much is the entire pie. Everything else is kind of just a side project at this point.
And don't get me wrong, their other businesses are doing great. I mean, gaming is up 49%, automotive up 69%. Those are fantastic numbers. But they are completely, utterly dwarfed by the data center's AI rocket ship, which brought in over $41 billion in a single quarter. It's just a different universe.
So what's putting the fuel in that rocket? It's all about the next generation of tech. The company's going all in on its new Blackwell platform. And when CEO Jensen Huang calls it the most anticipated AI platform, he's not just using marketing hype. This thing is the strategic core of the entire company's future.
And you want to see proof that the hype is real? Blackwell revenue jumped 17% in its very first full quarter. Now that is a huge signal. It tells you that the biggest tech companies in the world are not waiting around. They are scrambling to get their hands on this new, more powerful stuff.
But here's the thing. This level of dominance isn't just about having the latest and greatest chip. It's built on something much deeper, a competitive advantage, what people in business call a moat, that is just incredibly hard for anybody else to get across.
So, layer one of that moat is the hardware itself. And let's be super clear here. Blackwell is not just a little step up. For some of the most important AI jobs, it can deliver up to 30 times the performance of the last generation. That's not an upgrade, that's a revolutionary leap that keeps them way, way ahead of the pack.
But this might be the most powerful part of their moat. It's called CUDA. Think of it like a special programming language that AI developers have been learning and using for more than a decade. All the cutting-edge AI models are written in it, and it just works best on NVIDIA's hardware. It's like a secret language, and it basically locks everyone into their ecosystem.
And the result of that moat? Well, it looks like this. A staggering 92% of the market for these kinds of GPUs belongs to NVIDIA. This isn't just market leadership, this is pretty much owning the entire game.
Now, competitors like AMD and Intel aren't just sitting still, of course. They're making some really powerful chips too. But just look at this chart. NVIDIA leads on the key specs, but most importantly, look at that top row. Ecosystem. That word dominant next to CUDA, that's the moat in action. That's a software advantage that is just so hard to beat.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about what might be the craziest and most misunderstood part of NVIDIA's story right now: China. For a long time, this was seen as their biggest problem.
Yeah, for months, the biggest cloud hanging over the company was China. Because of strict U.S. export rules, this huge market was basically closed off to them. Everyone saw it as the single biggest threat to NVIDIA's growth.
But then, in a wild turn of events, the entire script got flipped. That massive liability has suddenly transformed into what could be a gigantic, untapped opportunity. So how did this happen? It came down to this really unique, kind of unprecedented deal. NVIDIA built a slightly less powerful chip for China, the H20, that complied with the rules. Then they made a deal to basically pay the US government a 15% fee on those sales. And just like that, a door back into this massive market creaked open.
And here is the most important part to understand. NVIDIA just put up those record-smashing numbers without China. The worst-case scenario has already happened, and they still thrived.
So that means any sales they make in China from here on out, it's all just a bonus. It's pure upside that nobody was counting on.
And how big could that bonus be? Well, the company's management thinks they could ship somewhere between $3 and $5 billion worth of these chips to China pretty much right away, as soon as all the rules are finalized. That is a massive injection of cash that isn't even in their current numbers.
So, with all that in mind, what happens next? Instead of just focusing on one price target, let's talk about the key signals, the real metrics that analysts are watching that will actually tell us where NVIDIA is headed from here.
Okay, so here's your checklist. First, are the big guys, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, still spending a ton of money on AI? That's the fuel for this whole thing. Second, is that data center business still growing fast every quarter? Third, how quickly are customers switching over to the new Blackwell chips? And finally, keep an eye on their profit margins. If they start creeping up toward that 75% goal, that's a huge sign of their power.
When you put it all together, NVIDIA has built this incredible fortress right in the center of the AI revolution, and they're defending it with some amazing technology and that powerful software moat. And now, with the China situation potentially turning from a risk into a reward, well, their dominance looks clearer than ever. The only real question left isn't if they'll lead the way, but just how high they can possibly go.